All right. We're going to do prepositions and we're going to look at Latin dictionaries. So let us begin with our opening prayer, and I will mute everybody and we will get started. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. All right. Brief review of what we did last time, very brief. If you remember, I told you that all Latin nouns have three things: number, gender, and case. And number is pretty straightforward, so do English nouns have that. Gender is something, if you've ever had French or Italian or any one of the Romance languages, or even German, I think all the Indo-European languages except English have gender, if I'm not mistaken, or at least, excuse me, most of them do. But the biggie is the cases, and you need to put the right endings on your Latin noun in order to put it in the nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative case in order to know how it functions grammatically. There's also two others, the vocative and the locative. Those are special cases. We're going to ignore them for the moment. First off, the vocative and the locative in the first declension are the same as the nominative anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I gave you a summary table of the endings. I realize these are kind of abstract at the moment. Try and write this table down if you want. Do it like in a single column, right?
Okay, so I looked it up. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Indo-European languages that do not have genders.
Out of how many? Yeah, look up how many. Lots do.
Most are fairly small languages, although a fairly large one is Persian, does not have genders.
Oh, that's right. Persian is part of the Indo-European. Yeah, you're right. Anyway,
Afrikaans also doesn't.
Yeah. Well, let's return to the Latin, okay, Adam?
Right.
So anyway,
anyway.
write these down, put them in a little table, and try and get them memorized. I realize right now that it's all very abstract because we don't have a whole lot of words we can construct sentences in. And those are the only ways that these endings make sense. I mean, you can memorize a bunch of nouns, like even in English, cat, dog, frog, tree, but it doesn't tell you how to put it in a sentence. And so we got to have a little bit more grammar and a little bit more vocabulary before we are able to do that. We're going to hit masculine and neuter nouns in the second declension. I'll probably not in the next two classes. I think what I'll probably do for the next class, which is after Thanksgiving, is we'll march through some of the homework, and I'll talk about this at the end of class and ask what everybody wants to do. But after we get through that, then we're going to do the masculine and neuter nouns and a few other things, and then we can actually begin making some simple sentences, which I will make these a little more, or make these less abstract. Okay, why is this zooming in all the time? There we go. I must be doing something. And I showed you this. I took the example of a word, vita. The root is vit, because the A is, the nominative. And then we went through all of these. I'm not going to bother to read through these tonight. And then the grammar. or sorry, the vocabulary. If you're start with the vocabulary, okay? The endings are important. In fact, the endings are very, very important, but we don't have a way of seeing how they work. But nouns like these are fairly concrete, and some of them are easy. Doctrina, if you can't figure out that that means doctrine or teaching, then you better probably study Pig Latin instead. Misa, okay. Mise, mass, that's not hard. Natura, nature. Papa, pope, you know. Terra is already an English word, and then vita. So memorize these, and what I want you to do is the singular and the plural, okay? Or excuse me, the singular and the genitive. That the form of nouns, and we'll see this when we hit the dictionary section in the next, I don't know, 20 charts, 15 charts, are always listed in the dictionary as in this form. And I'll explain why in a minute or in several minutes. But work on getting those nouns down. And we also had a little discussion on what humane vitae could have meant. And this is where I wish I had a chalkboard or whiteboard that I could go up there and have diagrammed it. But anyway, I thought I'd go through it here a little more clearly. So humane vitae, so we have AE endings, okay? So we have a AE ending for genitive, we have an AE ending for dative in the singular, and we have an AE ending for plural. So we know that in the singular form, it is of human and of life. We're not joining these words yet into a sensible sentence yet here.
There are over 60 languages in the Indo-European branch that do have genders.
Yeah, okay. They win. And the plural, okay, so we have the genitive or the dative, which is for human, for life, and then the plural, which are humans or lives. And so we'd have to stick these together in order to figure out what this meant. And what I did is I put together a table of possibilities. So what I did here is I did the genitive, sorry, excuse me, the plural nominative, the genitive and the dative, lives, of life, to life. And then I did it across the top, humans, of human, to human. And by the way, this is not a way to translate something. If you have to do this every time you wanted to translate something, you'd never get anything done. But by way of example, so if it's nominative, it would be humans' lives. Now, keep in mind that in English, we don't match number between our adjective and our noun. So in good English, this would be human lives, okay? It could also be lives of a human. Well, all right, that might work. And then if it's plural nominative and human is dative, lives to human. And I have no idea what that means. So that one is not a good candidate. If we look at the genitive, humans of life, that kind of makes sense, but I don't know what that is. If they're both genitive, then we have of human life. And if one is genitive and the other is dative, to human of life. Well, that doesn't make any sense either. By the way, the red ones are the ones that make sense.
Michael?
Yeah.
Just to interrupt and to clarify, this table that you've got in front of you, the point here is we're dealing with the word humane, and humane could mean any one of plural nominative, genitive, singular, or dative, right?
Right.
Okay.
So
So
and the same thing with vitae.
Right. But that's the point of what we're dealing with. You're showing us this table because if you were reading the word humane or vitae, it could be one of three things. So you have to consider the context.
Yes, and we're going to get to that because I'm going to give you the opening line of the
But that's what you're doing here. That's what I'm trying
Yes.
to clarify. You're
Yes.
trying to show the context and how you can interpret it.
Yes. Yes. And generally speaking, in any language, if you have an isolated phrase, it only makes, well, it's dangerous to assume too much about it if you don't know the context. So, you stand up in church and you say, well, I'm going to talk about humane vitae. Well, hopefully, probably not, but hopefully everybody would know that what you're referring to. So, and that's because it's an important encyclical in the Catholic Church. And so, we have Catholic culture that talks about this. So even simple things have a context. And so what I'm kind of doing here is showing you all the reasonable possibilities. And then what these are the four that make the most sense. Humans to life, no. To life of human, no, doesn't make much sense. So what we have here are these four. And the one it is, of course, is this guy right here. And it's perhaps unfortunate that I happened to pick this title at random, but I did. And so the whole opening line is humane vitae tradende munus gravissimum, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense to most of you. I will hint that gravissimum is where we have gravity, grave, serious. So what you have is in the Latin, which translates as the serious task of transmitting human life. And so this is all transmitting of human life, and that's why we say that humane vitae means of human life. Everybody got that?
Is tridente transmitting?
Tridende.
But is that a transmission? Is that not a feminine first declension noun?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's really of transmission. I mean, I realize I'm just saying transmitting suggests that it's a verb, but it's not a verb, it's a noun.
Well, okay, it is a verb. It's a participle form.
It's a participle. Okay, that's what I was trying to clarify, whether it was a participle or whether it was a noun. Okay.
Well, the answer is both because of the way it's used. But yes, you're right. It's a participle being used as a noun.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, just because of the fact that it has the AE ending, it was curious.
Yep. Well, okay. Agenda. I think most people have heard of the word agenda. Well, that is the plural of agendum. And agendum is the participle version of one of our favorite words, ago. Now, this is something for Alex. A lot of you guys haven't had it. So I don't want to get bogged down in participles and stuff. We'll get them eventually.
No, the only reason why I asked was so that nobody gets confused because of the AE of tridende following the humane vitae. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a simple exercise which will hopefully kind of help folks. Replace the correct Latin word ending. So if we wanted to say the woman ate the dinner, femina is woman, cena is dinner. So you don't have to look up the vocabulary. But what ending do we want on femina? Don't all speak at once.
Maybe the
The
same.
same.
Right, A. And then Chena. That's terrible.
Accusative.
Yes, we want Chenam because what is being eaten here, the dinner, the verb is acting on the dinner. So we want the accusative case, okay? The doctrine or doctrina of the church was given to us by the apostles. So doctrina takes
The same.
yep, doctrina of the ecclesia.
Be careful, don't say ecclesia, it's ecclesia.
Ecclesia is the N
Ecclesia.
in genitive.
Let's see if I can. Ecclesia. Okay, there we go. Right. So John the Baptist, yes, this is genitive because it's the doctrine of the church. John the Baptist baptized with aqua, water. Now, I talked a little bit about the ablative, which is known as the, well, we'll kind of paint the big brush as the means by which the action was accomplished.
Aqua.
Aqua, yeah, and so we actually get rid of the with. We don't need a with here. We just need a long A. So when we'll eventually we'll actually be able to say the rest of that, and you'll see that we don't need anything other than the aqua. The priest blesses the Sancta Aqua.
So sancta will have the same ending that aqua does.
Yes, it will. Any takers other than Alex?
Ablative.
That is correct. So we want, oh, I'm sorry. Did you say ablative?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, sorry. I meant accusative.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Sanctum aqua. Yeah. The holy water. Yeah. And let's see. Then the next one is the glory of God shines forth in the nature of the Mass. I hope that makes sense. It was the best I could come up with. Let's start with glory, Gloria.
Genitive.
Same
Actually,
ending.
no.
Glory.
This should be nominative. The of
Oh, yeah.
God would be
Yeah.
genitive. Yeah, genitive. I know. I'm throwing a few curveballs on this one. Shines forth in the nature of the Mass. Oh, actually, this is getting ahead of things. I have a
You've introduced us a little bit
little bit
to
on
the
that.
dative.
Yeah,
You've introduced us to dative.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, let's do this one. Misa. There we go. In the nature of the Mass. We'll do this one. This one should be easy. Any takers?
I'll do it.
Sure, go ahead.
The glory.
Gloria,
Glory.
I just want to know what ending Misa needs.
Oh, Misa. Nominative.
No, it's of the Mass.
Genitive.
Oh, dative.
Genitive, yes.
Genitive.
Yep, of the mass. And yeah, this would actually be ablative, I get. Well, let's see. Yeah, this would actually be yeah, this would be
No.
actually ablative. Well, I'm thinking because of the in. I didn't think this one through as well as I
Well,
should.
but you have in English. So if you had it in, if you had no word in there, then it would be dative.
Yeah, all right, there. We'll do it that way. There. All right, let's see. I think, oh, okay. So any questions so far? Obviously, all of you folks who are silent out there has got this down cold because you have no questions. Either that, or
That
you-
would be assuming that I know enough to form a question.
okay, but all right. But the idea is you kind of see what the pattern is that we're getting at. Let's put it that way. How about
Yeah,
that?
sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I said, we have a problem here because we only got a few nouns, and now we got to write the Bible. You know, it's
Oh boy.
a
Okay.
little tough. Yeah. We can't even order hamburgers if we're at the Vatican or lunch or anything. So anyway, but all right, let's go on to prepositions. I kind of hate to dump more words on you, but actually prepositions use these cases. And so hopefully it will help us to form simple phrases that will help us to conceptualize what's going on better. What is a preposition? It's a word governing. And usually, and when I say usually, I'm referring to English. But in Latin, always, excuse me, I had a very good beer with dinner. And it's paying the compliment back with some burping. And usually, but always in Latin, preceding a noun or pronoun and expressing a relation to another word or element in the clause. Well, what does that mean? Well, the man on the platform. Okay, so this is the on the platform. On is the preposition, and it's showing you what the relationship between man and platform is. So it's the man on the platform, okay? She arrived after dinner, which is probably unfortunate because she didn't get any. So again, she is the noun and it's after dinner when she arrived. And then my favorite is the rorate celi, or one of my favorites, rain down ye heavens from above. So where is the rain coming from? From above. So all a preposition does is it tells you the relationship between the main noun and a noun or event that you wish to distinguish that noun with. Classical Latin has the exact same prepositions as ecclesiastical, but you will find that ecclesiastical tends to use them more. Just make note of that. There's no way I can show you a good example of that yet. All propositions have an associated case, and this is where we start using our cases that we learned. Accusative generally indicates motion towards or at. So there is a phrase. It doesn't make it, I don't think it makes it into the press very often, but it is definitely one that is bandied about NASA. And I don't know if I ever mentioned it, by the way. I work at NASA, so that's why I mention it. Ad stellas per aspirin, which literally means to the stars through aspirin. And what it refers to is all the various headaches and technological problems you have to overcome in order to do space flight. So the important one here is ad stellas, to the stars. That indicates motion. We're going to the stars. So stella, star, stellae, plural, stars. But stellas, if we go back to our little table here, we find that is plural accusative. Whoops, I went back too far. Oh, not far enough. Ablative is a catch-all case. It generally indicates accompaniment, placement, instrument with or by. There's no, whereas accusative is motion towards or at. Ablative indicates position, but not necessarily motion. So you may have heard the phrase ex cathedra, from the chair of St. Peter. Well, there's your good A ending feminine noun, cathedra, which means chair. By the way, that's where we get cathedral. Any ideas as to why cathedral from cathedra?
The seat of the bishop.
The seat of the bishop. Yes, the chair of the bishop. So this means exactly that, from the chair of St. Peter. There are whole lot more examples you'll see here in coming up shortly.
Two things there, real quick. Similar to the NASA motto in Catholic culture, we say to Jesus through Mary.
Yes. Ad
And I've seen
Jesum.
it.
Yeah, ad Jesum per Mariam.
Ad Jesum per Maria.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I always thought it was cathedra. I heard you pronounce it cathedra.
Yeah, it should be cathedra. The TH, okay, the TH should be pronounced like Thomas. You know, part of it is my English tongue stumbles over some of these words. So it should be cathedra.
No, but I meant the emphasis on the syllable. I thought it was the first syllable was in.
Oh, am I putting it on the second? No, you're right. It's on the first. Cathedra. Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Mhm.
And part of it is I'm thinking of cathedral. I'm not shifting gears very well. You're quite right. It is on the first syllable. Cathedra. There we go.
Michael?
Yeah.
The TH is harkens back to the theta in Greek.
Yes.
And would it be correct to say that that theta did not carry over to the Latin, such that if there is a TH in a word, as you were saying, it's not pronounced like the theta, it's pronounced like the hard T in Thomas?
Well, with the H.
That's what I said, TH.
Yeah. Well, okay. First
Are there
off, realize
instances-
that for the Greek letters, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, etc., we pronounce those as it is, as if the names were written out in English. The Greeks, or if you're speaking Greek, pronounce them differently. For example, pi, 3.141592, the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter, is pronounced, if you're speaking in Greek, P. So be careful a little bit when you say theta, because that's English. The TH sound, I think, is unique. I believe the TH sound is unique to English.
So cathedra is not a Greek word?
It is, but it's not
Okay.
the TH sound. There is no TH sound in Latin like.
That's what I just got
Like
to
the
say. I was saying that the theta in Greek,
Oh, you're right.
Cathedra, it has the Greek derivation, the th is a theta, and I don't think the theta carried over to Latin. And that's what you just said. That's all I was confirming.
No, I don't think the Greek pronounce it theta.
You don't think the Greeks, you don't think the word theos is a word in Greek?
It is, but it's okay. It's theos. It's not theos, it's theos, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's an Anglicization
Yes.
pronunciation.
Yes.
Okay.
Now I don't, I don't know Greek. This is where I wish I had my daughter. She actually managed to study classical Greek and biblical Greek, but okay. Theotokos, for example, is not pronounced Theotokos in Greek, but Theotokos. Okay. So theta, you're right. Theta, if you're pronouncing it in English, has got a TH sound, but it's that's not how the Greeks do it.
Okay. Well, the bottom line is that the th, whenever you see a th in a word in Latin, you don't pronounce it as a th, you pronounce it as a t.
Well, there is an H in there, like Thomas. Thomas. There's an H in there. I don't know what the right term for it, aspirated or whatever the word is. It's in there, but it's not a. It is not a. So cathedra. There's an H. Cathedra is there. There is an H in there. It may be hard to hear, but it is buried in there. But it's separate.
Well, the common word will be Catholic. How do you say?
Oh, okay.
in
No,
Latin?
excellent. Yeah, excellent. Oh, excellent example. Wow, I'm forgetting the obvious. Catholica. Catholica. Et apostolica. Yes, Catholica. Thank you. That one I can pronounce. All right. Anyway, shall we move on, or I will look up how the Greeks pronounce theta for next time. How's that sound?
Just one last thing, Michael, about the ablative.
Mhm.
At some point, I guess you're going to distinguish if you don't have if you don't have a preposition.
Oh, we'll get to that. Let's not confuse everybody yet.
Okay.
Or I should say, let us not confuse people any more than they already have.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the ablative means and all that other stuff. Yeah. We pick those up as we go through the units. So anyway, more words, just what you wanted. Okay. These are not all of the prepositions that Latin has by any means, but these are the pretty important ones. And okay, et, which means and or both and also, is not a preposition, it's a conjunction. And the suffix QUE is also means and I'll explain how that works. But the other ones, pardon?
Filioque.
Yeah, the filioque, yes. But these are the ones that are in Unit 1. And so op or obs mean, and it takes the ablative, the ablative. I worked in space too long today. The ablative heat shield and the ablative declension means from or away from. The opposite is odd, which takes the accusative, which means to, towards. It can also mean for the purpose of and at. And as we see it in more contexts, you'll be able to see that that's really kind of all related together. May not seem right at the moment, but it'll be a little clearer later. Then coram, which is usually often translated as before, but a better translation is in the presence of. So, so if we say coram Deo, you might say before God, meaning, you're in front of him. A better translation is in the presence of. Now that's a little stilted, so we'll probably use a before there, but understand that before is ambiguous.
But the before does not mean prior to,
Yes, exactly. It's
which is ante.
Yes,
Which
this
is
is
ante.
yes, yeah, this is not, yeah, that's a different preposition. Then cum, which is the ablative, is with. Let's see, there's got to be, okay, we actually have that in the Ave Maria. You may not recognize it. Oh, okay. Now there's a special case where they stick the word in front of the cum. So this tecum means with thee, okay? And that's another thing I'll mention, we'll get to eventually, is Latin retained its second person singular. English, it would be thee or thou. You don't see that very often in everyday speech, except in poetry. But in Latin, it's very, very much alive. And so this is a with thee. Okay. De is from, down from, or about. If you remember, I talked about rorate celi de super. Is anybody familiar with that antiphon?
Yes.
Yes.
They light a lot of don't they light a lot of candles for that one?
Pardon?
Okay. For that liturgy that uses that antiphon.
Oh, yeah.
I think they light a lot of candles.
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends, but yes. And
At Annunciation, they sing the De Profundis.
oh, oh, thank you. Obvious. Yeah, De Profundis. From the depths I cry to thee, O Lord. Then we already saw ex, meaning from or out of, ex cathedra. Cathedra. I'll get the emphasis, the accent on the right syllable. Now, why did we list 3 here and 2 there? And the answer is, if the noun begins with a consonant, then you can use the A. So if there is a vowel there, then you have to use the op or ops. And part of the reason for it, let's take aqua. Okay, water. So if we wanted to say from the water or away from the water, we would say op aqua or ops aqua. Op probably being the most common word. We would not say a aqua because that is actually rather hard on the ears and hard on the tongue. So the Latin, this is the same as in English between an apple or a apple. Well, we don't say a apple, we say an apple because we don't put the double A's together, we stick an N in there. So it's the same thing. Same thing with e or X. If it is, we could say actually cathedra. Well, if I could say it, I could say it. But meaning if there is a vowel there, you can use the, you have to use the X. And if there's no vowel there, then you have the option of using the E. I don't see the single E too often, or at least I don't remember seeing it. I see X a whole lot more. These I see all 3, depending upon that. Et.
Michael?
Yeah.
Going back to obs,
Mhm.
The text says that obs is used before T, is that right?
Obs is used before what?
Obs is used only before T,
T?
the
Yeah.
letter T.
Yeah.
Okay.
Et is and. So if we wanted to say celi et terra, the heavens and the earth. Well, the et is the and. But Latin, if we wanted to say both heaven and earth, we would say et celi et terra. That would be the both form of that. And then in. Now, in can either mean motion into, okay, or you are already there. So as I mentioned earlier, in the accusative form, you use the motion version, and for the placement version, you use the ablative. And don't worry, we'll have a lot of examples coming up here, which may or will hopefully clarify some of this stuff. Pro, okay, pro, well, hey, not that dissimilar than what the English word is, you know, pro-life, pro-family, pro-woman, pro-whatever. And we're not referring to golf pros. That's a different kind of pro. So it is, takes the ablative. So pro vita would be pro-life. It also can mean in front of, in behalf of. You'll see later on why that makes sense in Latin, but for the moment, just think of it as in front of, or think of it as in behalf of or for. Pro ecclesia, for the church. Que, all right. This is something that is unique to Latin. I don't think English has anything even remotely to it. I said celi et terra, meaning the heavens and the earth. I could say celi, heavens, terraque, meaning and earth. So you can stick the que at the end of it. And the one that Alex reminded me of that you may be familiar with is in the Creed. The double procession of the Holy Spirit, qui ex patre filioque procedit, who from the Father, filioque, and the Son proceeds. And then sine is ablative, meaning without. Let's see, do we have any, I'm trying to think, are there any English phrases that, well, Latin phrases that English has stolen that uses sine? There's probably some legal words in there. And then
what about, Michael?
Yeah.
Would it be like the phrase sine qua non? Is that?
Oh, there, yeah, okay. I knew there had to be a Latin phrase that English had stolen. Yes. And then super, which means, which takes the accusative, which means above, upon, or over. So if you were in space, you would be super terram, above the earth. And then it can also mean about and concerning if it takes the ablative. So if you were going to write about life, you might say super vita. It's not that you're saying you're above life, but rather you are about life or concerning life, for example.
Michael, how would you distinguish the day, which has an about meaning, from the super, which has the about meaning? Are the two abouts different? Or can they just be used interchangeably?
I'm thinking.
They're both ablative.
The usual, yeah, the usual, like, well, have you ever heard the phrase de gustibus non disputandum est? Maybe not. About matters of taste, you should not dispute them. Or let's see, let me untangle that into sensible English.
It sounds like day seems like it goes more with
it's
about than super does.
I would agree with that. I'm trying to think of some super would be it has this connotation, but it's just escaping me at the moment. A good example. I'll try and look that up. But the usually about, in the sense that we use it, is you usually see day. All right. Lots of questions, I'm sure. But I'll ask if there are any, because the next chart is we're gonna try some examples here. Okay, let's try some examples. Okay, so now we have some nouns and some prepositions, and we can make some really simple phrases that will help us to understand the function of cases and the function of these prepositions. So this is a student translates here. So op familia, from where we get birthday presents. So what does op familia mean?
From the family.
From the family, household, yeah. Ad ecclesiam, where you should go every Sunday.
To the church.
To church.
To church.
Yep. Coram ecclesiam. That's where father gives his homily.
Could ecclesiam here be assembly rather than church?
Yeah. Ecclesia can either mean, well, it can mean church. Church in the sense of the physical building. Or it can mean, well, in fact, you even see that in English.
In church.
Yeah, yeah. Ad ecclesiam. Well, we go to church, we go ad ecclesiam every Sunday. Well, in that case, it's talking about the building. Okay. Coram ecclesiam, in this case, is referring to the building or the assembly.
It could mean the assembly.
Yeah, either one. Either one. Yeah, but actually, Alex brings up a good point. Ecclesia comes from the Greek, and it means just that, assembly. Okay. But if you were to, I wouldn't, I would be a little careful translating ecclesia as assembly all the time, because ecclesia catholica is the Catholic Church. Yeah, you could change that or translate that as the Catholic Assembly, but that sounds like it's more like a Knights of Columbus meeting or something. So you have to think a little bit when you're translating between the languages, some of the nuances between the two.
Well, clearly here, your ad ecclesiam, that's clearly to the church.
Yeah, that's the building.
But when you say where father gives his homily, then I think you could use the assembly.
Either one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could certainly mean that. Yeah. Or you are in the church, and so he's at the front of the church, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. So a couple possibilities.
Michael, question, if it's in the church, can we use in ecclesiam?
No. If you are in the church, then it is in ecclesia, because
Right.
let's see, where are, here's my tables. Okay. If you are in, okay, you use the ablative.
Ablative, yeah.
And if you're going into the church, then you might use the accusative.
Or if
Got
you're
it.
among the assembly, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Ecclesia.
Yeah, yes. Ad ecclesiam, or is motion. Well, you can also use in ecclesiam.
That means into.
Yeah, into the church. Yes, that's true. That actually means you're going into the church. Technically, ad ecclesiam means you're going to the church, but if you're going to be a Philadelphia lawyer, you don't have to step inside and go to the baseball game.
Well, you would know whether you're talking about in the church or into the church
Yes.
by the ending. Because if it's in ecclesia, then you know it's in the church. If it's in ecclesiam, then you know it's into the church.
Into the church, yes. Yeah. And I realize I've shown you a couple of ambiguities of Latin, but actually Latin is generally a very concrete language. The Romans basically stated things very literally. There wasn't a whole lot of
Hyperbole.
yeah, well, there was, they had theirs. Yeah, I don't want to, it was a concrete language is what I'm trying to say. It wasn't,
English.
okay, that's one way of putting it. That's one way. Anyway, okay, so cum doctrina ecclesiae, we should always be in tune with it. Cum is with. Doctrina, notice I put a little line over the A, is ablative, which cum takes, with the doctrine of the church. Maybe we should send that phrase over to Germany about now. Anyway, Christus, and this is coming up. Christmas isn't that far off, so I thought I'd throw a few in. Christus natus de Maria Virgine. Now, I admit you haven't had a lot of those words, but Christus, okay, you should be able to figure that one out.
But natus from nativity.
Yeah, nativity. Christ was born. De, we had that. Maria, from the Virgin Mary. And let's see, ex doctrina ecclesiae. Always pay attention to things like this. Any takers?
That's church doctrine from the church.
Yep, X is from.
So from, let's see, from the church doctrine.
Yeah, from the teaching of the church or the doctrine of the church, either one. But it's not plural. So we probably say, yeah, okay. Couple of more, and then we will be done. And then we'll hit, oh yeah, we got a couple more first. All right, here's a few more of the examples though. Et familia, et ecclesia. Two important lives in our, two important items in our busy lives.
Michael, could I ask you just a quick question about the last slide?
Sure.
Could you also say a doctrina ecclesiae? I know you said that you rarely see the a, but if I recall what you said, that you can't use a before.
No, okay. Oh dear, I'm going to have to dig up the slide from the last session where I showed the difference between odd, and X.
Okay, I didn't mean to complicate it. It's just that
the odd is you're thinking about. Did you say ad doctrinam ecclesiae?
No. You
said sorry, you said
No.
No.
You said that the letter E, meaning
yes.
out of, And you said that you can't have that before a vowel noun. You have to have it before a consonant noun. And so
Right.
that's why I was asking, could.
Oh, I'm
could you
sorry.
have-
I misunderstood what you were saying. Yes, you
Could
could
you-
have doctrina ecclesiae. Sorry.
That's all I was asking.
Sorry. I heard an ah. We'll blame it on the Zoom connection. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, yeah. You have cut in and out a couple times, so I probably misheard. Anyway, so et familia et ecclesia, or yeah, et familia et ecclesia. Two important items in our busy lives. Well, what is the et and the et? Remember that?
And also,
Yeah, it means both
And
or
both.
also.
Yeah.
Both family and church.
mhm.
Okay. In gloria Dei. Do everything in this. Takers?
In the glory of God.
Very good. Pro forma. For the sake of Latin word forms, remember them. Pro forma. Actually, it's a short O, so it should be pro forma. There we go.
Oh, I got none.
For the sake of form. Isn't that that's a legal term, isn't it, Alex? I'm
Yep.
surprised nobody heard it.
Yep.
Wow. Don't you guys like watch LA Law?
Yeah. Or
Actually, I don't, but I'm too busy doing other things. All right, here we go. Here's the QUE ending. Terra, aqua. You
aqua,
are on one or the other, unless you're flying.
aquaque,
Yeah, aqua. Oh, sorry, aquaque.
aquaque. That sounds like a duck would say it.
Land and sea.
Yeah.
Sounds like quick way.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yes, it means the earth and water. So you're either on the earth or you're in the water,
Or land and water.
or land and water. Yes, that's true. Sine culpa. Now you got to get this one. Every politician claims this.
Without fault?
Without fault. And they probably say, you know, sine culpa mea, you know, without my fault, it was not my fault. And if you remember the Confiteor, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, that's actually in the ablative form, meaning through my fault, through my fault, through my most grievous fault, is the way it's translated a bit loosely from the into English. But the fact that you repeat it 3 times is in Latin, you know, it emphasizes it. Super terram.
Above.
If you are flying, then this.
Above.
Above the earth. Super terra. About the earth. Yeah, if you're discussing
Yeah.
ecology.
That-
Now,
that's a
by the
good-
way, those who has this just started, Alex has been through some of these classes, but well, he took it last year, so
I knew nothing before.
yeah, he knew nothing before October, right? No, he's took it before, so don't feel too intimidated. But go ahead and shout out, try it. If you make a mistake, fine. Let me put it this way. In engineering, which is what I am, mistakes are equally important as successes. And in some sense, they're actually more important. Because if you try something and it worked, I mean, that's obviously great, but you don't necessarily know what the boundaries are of how that works. And so when you try something and it doesn't work, that tells you something about the physics and the engineering of the system. So do not feel, feel free to make mistakes. Do not be afraid by any means to try it. Okay.
Michael,
Yes.
and that last set of examples, that having the superterum and the superterra is a great way to show how the word super can either be accusative or ablative. And you show in gloria Dei. I suppose you could have said something like in ecclesiam to show the difference between.
Oh, that's
the two.
true. Yep, that's true. Out ecclesiam and in ecclesiam. Yeah, I'll remember that.
Well, no, I mean, here you have in gloria Dei,
Mhm.
and then you could have followed that with another in and said in ecclesiam, for example.
Well,
So
actually,
you could distinguish the in where it takes the ablative versus the in where it takes the accusative.
yeah, no, I know what you meant. Yeah, I will remember that for the next
But
class.
anyway, I just noticed that from the superterum and the superterra, it's helpful to see the difference of the words because of the ending of the terum.
Okay. Well, I may end up creating some more exercises. We may end up taking unit 1 a little more slowly than we did last time, to kind of help people through the valley of death called declensions. So I may keep that in mind. All right.
Michael?
Yes.
Michael? I just have a small question.
Sure.
When you do in gloria Dei, I just wrote down in God's glory, but
That's
so
perfect.
why would it not be that? Am I missing?
Because in the glory of God and in God's gloria are exactly the same thing.
Okay.
You can say it either way. In
Okay.
English, well, let me put it this way. In English, you can say it either way.
Okay.
In Latin, you can only say it that way.
Okay.
And in fact, if you said in Dei Gloria, they'd look at you like, what?
Yeah. Well, at this point, I think I can give a stab at English, but not quite Latin.
What I'm saying is there are places where you can go from Latin to English, and there's a couple different ways of doing it.
Okay.
English has way more words. In fact, English, if I'm not mistaken, has more words than any other language on the face of the planet.
Right.
Or at least if it doesn't, it's way up there, way more than most European languages. So we have a couple different ways of doing things. But no, in God's glory is fine. That is perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable. Anything else?
Sir, this is Lauren. I was just going to say for the group that's called idiomatic English or idioms. It's just different ways that people in a certain language express themselves that make sense to others in that language. So it could mean basically the same thing in English, but like he was saying in Latin, it's expressed one way.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll get into some idiomatic Latin that makes very little sense if you were to do it word for word in English. We'll see that later on, but yeah. Yeah, and actually that kind of brings up a point. Knowing the word in a language, and even if you got all the endings down, you need to have exposure to that language to understand how that word is used. And as we get more and more into the liturgy and stuff, you'll see that more and more. Okay, so as I said, cases are used to indicate, this is kind of a summary, grammatical function of nouns. Prepositions require their nouns to use accusative or ablative to distinguish the noun they are attached to. Some will use either case, depending upon meaning, in and being a good one. How to memorize. As I said, grammar tends to be somewhat abstract. So I recommend via catchy Latin phrases, especially phrases you have heard in the Mass or in prayers. So I don't know how many are going to be at a Latin Mass this weekend, or a Mass where Latin is used. It could be an English Mass and they could, sing the Kyrie and the Sanctus, etc. But look for some of the things that you've learned so far. You may not be able to, follow it along terribly well. You're still very much in the initial phase, the initially absorbing phase. But for example, if I got to go, okay, now does X use the accusative? Oh yeah, that's right. Ex cathedra is reminds me that X here is in the ablative. So I go, oh yeah, X takes the ablative. So, look for phrases, write your own phrases for that matter. There are phrases in English that come from Latin, pro bono or pro bono publico, for the good of the people, or pro bono work, which basically means free. But it's for the good, for the common good. There's other phrases out there, so be mindful of them, and do your best to memorize them. Flashcards, whatever. So now I did want to mention one other. We only got 15 minutes left. Okay, I wanted to mention one other thing. I tell you what, I'm going to skip over. No, I'll do this part quickly. This is an example of, it's easy to get confused on the dative in 2 or 4. You know what? I'm going to skip over this. I just want to point out something to you, that in the English, the word to, you go to the dictionary. This is all the things the preposition to in English can mean. Motion towards, a point reached after a period of time, reaching condition. I mean, a whole list of things. And Latin distinguishes the uses of the word to. We have it in indirect objects. Gloria in excelsis Deo. That's where we use the dative. Give the book to Mary. Da, give. Librum, book. Mariae, also dative. Whereas a destination, I came to church. Ego, I, veni, like veni, veni, Emmanuel, okay, came ad ecclesiam, I came to church. And then lastly, are infinitives. We have in English, it would be to and a verb. So to give would be in Latin just dare, to love, amare, to pray, orare. So anyway, Latin distinguishes between those, and so you need to get a little more experience with some of the phrases to really get a feel for what those meanings are. And so, what do we have so far? Okay, so we've seen all the a nouns. So those are first declension words: Maria, gratia, plena, benedicta. Now it's not in a vocabulary, but blessed, not too far a stretch. Sancta Maria, Holy Mary. Hora, hour. Nostre is ours. We actually haven't had that word, but you can see that's the genitive form. In the hour of our death. And then the prepositions. We had the cum, and later on you're going to see that for some of the pronouns, they say tecum. You may be Dominus vobiscum. Well, the vobis is the plural form. Tecum is the singular form. Then we have the in and the et and the pro and the et and an in. So we've picked up a few more words here. Let's see what's next. Okay, I wanted to go through this quickly before everybody disappears. I mentioned we were going to talk about dictionaries. Dictionaries are very useful. I have one on my iPhone. I have my Mass text on my iPhone. And occasionally during Mass, usually in the gospel readings, I will hit a word that I just am unfamiliar with. So even though I'm paying very close to what Father is saying in the homily, sometimes I'll kind of sneak over and go, oh yeah, okay, that's that word. So I like to use electronic ones, but in any case, you will eventually want to or should get a Latin dictionary. You don't have to rush out and buy one yet, but I kind of wanted to talk about them now because there's some things you need to be aware of, and actually the ones I use for that matter as examples. First thing is, and this gets back to what I said earlier, you want to memorize the femina and then the feminae, the nominative and the genitive singular. And that's how you're going to see it in every noun entry in a dictionary. Because when you see the femina and the AE, that tells you immediately first declension noun. It's an A ending noun. They put the F there to indicate it's feminine, as most of them are. There are a few that I've warned you that are masculine. So if you were to look up the word femina in a dictionary, that is what you'd see. Femina, a feminine woman. And they may have a longer definition, but that's the idea. And also prepositions. You see X, and it may say something like prep with ablative, meaning preposition with the ablative, meaning from, out of, and giving the definition. So the dictionary is not only a way to look up what a word means, it is also a way to look up how that word is used. And what I'm referring to in the case of nouns are the declension and the gender. For prepositions, the case it might take. And for verbs, there's, we'll get to all the other verbs, adjectives, adverbs, we'll get to later. But the dictionary can give you a wealth of information. And in fact, Father Reginald Foster, who's passed away a couple of years ago, I think, or was it last year? Yeah, anyway, he's a well-known, he used to write a lot of the Latin encyclicals at the Vatican, long since retired, teaches Latin. And he does not give anybody a textbook. He says, go out and buy a dictionary. I think that's a little rough. I'll at least have a textbook so we can go to. All right, examples of dictionaries. Now this is from Cassell's, which is a classical dictionary, okay? So you look up anima, which in case you don't know what it means soul. So you see anima, anime. So up here you see anima, anime, feminine, and then a whole bunch. The classical it actually means wind or breath, okay? But it also means the vital principle, the soul. So when we talk about the breath of God, that's the Holy Spirit, and he breathed upon Adam, the notion of soul and breath are very much connected to one another. And the word anima, by the way, for which we get animate, is if you're not breathing, you're not animate anymore. So, but generally, you're not going to see some of these. As I said, this is a classical dictionary, so you're not going to see a lot of these very often. Generally speaking, if you see it in an ecclesiastical setting, it's referring to soul. But that is what you see in a dictionary. Now,
did they not use soul at all there in that definition?
No, they did. The vital principle.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Right there,
Okay.
right there. Yeah, you got to read a way down. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dictionaries are kind of like whodunits. You got to read all the way to the end to find out who done it. And as I saw, that's the other thing is, see, the dictionaries will also give you a lot of information Okay, animam edera, to give up the ghost. That literally means to delete the soul. Okay.
Is the CIC Cicero?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, these are the you'll see a bunch of strange abbreviations. This is Horatio or Horace, I guess, in English, Virgil, Cicero. Yeah, you'll see a lot of Ciceros in there. Cicero was just a wonderful Latin classical. Pliny, there we go. There's a Pliny in there. Cicero was Virgil. Yeah, there's a Virgil in there. Cicero was a very important author in the golden age of Latin. So if he wrote anything about it, that word is going to be in the dictionary. I have several dictionaries myself. I have printed dictionaries. I have the Oxford Latin Dictionary, 1996, 2,126 pages.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
do not carry what?
Is it more than one volume?
You can get it in 1 or 2 volumes. Mine is a single volume.
Wow.
And when you see the price, you'll say, wow, as well. I happened to get a good deal. Oh boy, this must have been 20 years ago for it. And I said, sold. And I think I got it for $50, which is like, I think it sells for 500 these days. No, don't get it. Well, unless you want to. It is strictly classical though. What they did is they accumulated every word in use before 200 AD, which is considered the classical and the golden age. Okay. So it is strictly classical and there is no reverse lookup. Great dictionary. Don't recommend it for you guys. Very popular one is Cassell's Latin Dictionary. It has Latin English and English Latin. I actually have a 1936 edition and then a 1959 edition. It's a very nice dictionary. It's also classical. So there are words that we use that will not be in it. And it has something called reverse lookup, where I want to know the Latin word for the English word. See, up here in the Oxford Dictionary, it's just Latin and then English definitions. So there's no good way to back search. I also have a Latin English dictionary of St. Thomas Aquinas. This has all sorts of good words that Thomas Aquinas used. It has ecclesiastical use of the words and that are not used classically. So there are a ton of words that are not in that. Okay, so in other words, oh dear. Let's see. River, flumina. There we go. It's probably not in there because flumina is in the classical dictionary, and flumina is a river. And I don't think we have any mystical writings of Thomas Aquinas about rivers, although you never know. He did write a lot. So point I'm making is that
he doesn't talk about the river
dictionary. The classical dictionary and the ecclesiastical dictionaries have a different set of words. I'm sorry, I cut somebody. Was that you, Alex or Adam?
No, I was joking. He doesn't talk about the river Styx.
Oh, yes, but it's probably not in the dictionary because everybody knows what that word means. These are just words that are used in ecclesiastical sense that are different from what you would see in classical, or don't appear in classical for that matter. The Latin language continued to grow after the classical period to take in new concepts, theology, science, etc. I also have something which is a personal favorite of mine, a copious and critical English Latin lexicon, 1846. It is the Writer's Latin Dictionary. So it's a way to look up English words and get the right sense of them in Latin. Don't get that one either.
Unfortunately, it won't have airplane in it either.
Oh, you never know.
1846?
Yeah, I know. That's way before then, but you'd be surprised some of the things that are in there. So yeah.
That last one, Michael, If you were a writer at that time and you wanted to express yourself in Latin, is that what you would use?
Definitely. Even today, I refer to it.
Like if you were writing a medical text and you had to use medical terms, you would use something like that. Or
well, that's probably a bad example. If you were writing a medical text, you would use the medical terms that are already there.
But they do have medical terms that are associated with Latin.
Yes, many of them are. No, this would be more like I'm helping Pope Leo the 13th write his next encyclical. I would make sure, well, of course, Pope Leo wouldn't write it in English first. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a good example, all the encyclicals.
Yeah. Now, these are the ones I really wanted to talk about. Is I have electronic dictionaries, i.e. they run on my computer. And I'm an Apple all the way. I have an iMac, an iPhone, and an iPad. And I'm going to mention two, Scriba and Ultralingua. They run on Apple, they run on Windows, they run on Android. I'm not saying get these. I'm saying these are examples of something you might want to get. Why? They're portable. Remember my Oxford Latin Dictionary with 2,200 pages? It's not portable. In fact, it's a pain to use. I do refer to it from time to time because it's like, the source. But electronic is portable. They're cheaper. They're searchable. You can generally search the dictionary for Latin and English entries. They often have grammar built in. So you can search for inflected forms and you'll find them. For example, if you were looking up femina, but let's say you came across the word in the form feminarum, and you said, oh, I have no idea what the word is. And you look up for feminatum in the dictionary, in a printed dictionary, it's not there. It's under the entry of femina. So if you didn't know that feminatum is the plural genitive of femina, you're out of luck. Well, the electronic ones generally have the grammar built in, and you can search for inflected forms and they will find them. Not so much for nouns, but for verbs, this is very, very handy. Also, the font size is adjustable. This one here is basically magnifying glass material. It's pretty small print, but you can adjust the font size and do all kinds of great things. Now, the downside is print dictionaries last forever. Hey, that guy came from 1846. Electronic ones only last as long as they're maintained. So that is a downside. On the other hand, they're usually very inexpensive, $5, $10. So I don't find that a great problem. Anyway, a couple examples. Okay, here's, if we look up anima, and I look it up in Ultralingua, it has a nice, simple definition: anima, feminine, AE, breath, wind, air, by extension, the breath of life, etc. So that's really easy to find. I apologize, this is a little tougher to read. This is Scriba, which is based on Lewis and Short. Lewis and Short is something that's very valuable to us because Lewis and Short included words past the 200 AD mark, and I've forgotten how far they went. But there are a lot of ecclesiastical words in Lewis and Short that are not in ecclesiastical dictionaries. Good example. How many people have a Latin dictionary at home? Anybody other than Alex? Anybody? Oh, okay.
I bet Teresa does.
Yeah, okay. As a couple of you may have it. Go home. This is an assignment between now and actually do it tonight before you forget. Look up Angelus.
I have a Latin dictionary, but it might be classical.
Yeah, it probably is. Look up angel.
In Amsterdam School Production, let's
ANGELUS.
see, the New College Latin English Dictionary.
Yeah, look up
Troutman.
Yeah, look up angelus. Okay, which is Latin for angel. If it is a classical dictionary, it will not be in there. If it is a short dictionary, it will be. And some of the more modern electronic ones will say that they include Lewis and Short.
And how do you spell that?
ANGELUS.
GEL. Let's see. GAN.
They will have angularis, which means angular.
I see. So I have one that says ANGELLUS.
No.
Okay, yeah, that's the only one it has.
Yep.
Here, and that's a small corner.
Yep. Yes.
Michael?
So we don't have the choirs. We don't have the choirs of small corners. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I have, I didn't see it. Maybe you listed it, Stelton, STELTEN, a dictionary of ecclesiastical Latin.
Send me the info on that. I'd be curious.
Okay. It's his name is Leo.
Okay. No, just send me an email.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Because I'm still looking for the perfect dictionary. I haven't found it.
Well, I don't know that I would call it the perfect.
Well, okay, maybe that's unfair. So anyway, here's some examples of the two. Scriba has the Lewis and Short, so you can get more detail. Ultralingua is probably pretty good for a lot of you, or something like it, because it gives you simple definition. Lewis and Short gives you all the gory details, okay? So there we have Augustine, City of God, Prudentius. What are some of the other? Severus, Virgil. I'm trying to pick off Horace or Horatio. I'm not sure how we do. I guess we do Horace. Is it Horace? Yeah, I guess we do Horace in English. Now, the other thing you can use, and keep in mind, these guys, these are PDFs, so you should be able to open your PDF and click on that URL. There are online dictionaries. Perseus is one. And so if you don't want to, or you're not sure what you want to do for a dictionary, you can use Perseus for a while. I've used Perseus. It's a pretty good dictionary. It has Lewis and Short's Latin dictionary built into it. In fact, it is Lewis and Short, only it's online and electronic. It is classical, but it has a whole bunch of ecclesiastical words. So generally the Lewis and Short dictionaries are the best for us in the sense that they have the most classical stuff, but it can be kind of intimidating to sort through there and find all the words. So Ultralingua is cleaner, but what I advise is you get on, if you're on Apple, go onto the Apple App Store. If you're in Google, go to Google Play. I don't know what Windows does, but look around and see what's out there. Yeah, bottom line, there is no single perfect dictionary out there for us, or at least one that I've never run across. Find your own. I think Ultralingua and Scriba are, of the two I know, perhaps the best fit at the moment. There's also something called Whitaker's Words, which is pretty good as well. So there may be, there's probably a number of them out there that might be possibilities. One of the nice things about it is they both have declensions and conjugations. So let me do, just for the heck of it. Ooh, we're getting into overtime, but I do want to get through this. All right, where's my, okay, oh, there it is. All right, hold on. New share, I'm going to share this. No, that's not what I want. There, I'm going to share that. There we go. This is Scriba, by the way. So we can put in feminarum, and it will show us femina. And it will also show us the genitive plural. It's genitive plural. The other thing you can do is you can put in femina and you can see the declension. Something nice. The other thing you can do with some of these is you can create flashcards. So there's a couple of things you can do there. This particular Scriba has, let's see, what do we got here? No, we gotta go back the other way. Words and their forms. There we go. Roots, stems, and these are, it's a Latin grammar. I've forgotten now who or which one it is, but anyway, so it has other stuff in it. Useful. All right, let me switch back. There we go. So anyway, some things to think about. Whoop. You know, there's no great hurry, but it is, if you're going to progress, you really do have to have one eventually. Oh, one more tool I forgot, Google Translate. Original computer translations of foreign languages used to be laughable. The favorite one, now this would have been back in the 80s. They ran "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak" through various computer language translators, and it typically came out, "The meat is spoiled, but the drink is good." And you think about that and you go, what? Well, the flesh is weak. Flesh is meat, so the meat is spoiled. And but the spirit, let's see, the flesh is now I got it all tangled up in my mind. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Well, spirit, okay, that's drink, right? So yeah, this is where context is important. That's why I kind of hammer on it. Well, they've come a long way, okay? And Latin is especially hard for computer translations. Word ordering, endings. Google Translate has Latin, and in the past it was near worthless. And I entertained the last class with all sorts of foibles of Google Translate because they did not pay attention to noun or verb endings. And so they really made some rather hysterical mistakes. But oh yeah, this is from last class. So Mary bites the lamb. Maria mordet agnum. So I put this in Google Translate. This is last year. Okay, this one up here. And it says "sees bite lamb." And you look at that and you go, no. Well, okay, now to be fair, Maria is a name of the Blessed Mother, but Maria, slightly different accent there, is the plural for the seas. If you remember the Sea of Tranquility, Mare Tranquillitatis, the Sea of Tranquility, and the plural is Maria. So yeah, that's true. This is a valid translation. It is not the correct translation, though. Now, Google, I periodically go back and play with it. And this year I put in Maria mordet agnum. Mary bites the lamb. And I go, oh, wow. Hey, it got it right. That was kind of impressive. So it has improved a lot. I've given it a couple tests and it went from, let's say, a D- to maybe a C+. And that's pretty good employment. So yeah, you know, if you want to use Google Translate, I wouldn't use it as a dictionary. If you see a Latin phrase and you want to translate it, yeah, go ahead and put it in Google Translate. Don't write any nuclear treaties using it, or develop any church encyclicals using it. It has a lot of flaws. And you, of course, you are trying to learn Latin, so don't resort to it. But just to give an example of one it did not catch, vivant linguae mortue. Let dead languages live. Vivant linguae mortue. Long live the Dead Sea.
You have a typo in there. You've got a Q instead of a G.
Oops. Oh, yeah, you're right. So I do. No, that's just a funny font. There we go. But I did not mistype that over there. So,
Okay.
long live the Dead Sea. No, I don't think so. So anyway, actually, if you give it the English, which is curious, if you said let dead languages live and say go from English to Latin, it actually gets it right. But oddly, not the Latin to English. So they've still got a ways to go. You know, we don't have Spock's or
Maybe, well, at this rate, in a few years, it should be an A at this rate.
I'm not sure about that. I think what happened is they used their I suspect they used something called a neural network, and they fed a bunch of text into them to improve it. And I know we're out of time, but I thought I would throw a couple of books at you guys. Yes, there are actually Dr. Seuss books that have been translated into Latin. How the Grinch Stole Christmas and The Cat in the Hat. And then, and by the way, I own those two. Then there's Winnie the Pooh in Latin. I do not know the where the wild things are. We had an English copy of that from our kids growing up. I really do need to get the Latin version. And of course, The Hobbit. The Hobbit was
Is The Lord of the Rings also translated?
Pardon?
Do they also have a translation of The Lord of the Rings?
I haven't seen it, but I don't know. The Lord of the Rings is pretty good or pretty big. Let's see. Let's see. Dictionary, wiki.com. I don't know. I have not seen that. I will try and look at it before next class.
Also, are these accurate or?
No, these are accurate. Yes, these were done by, this particular one was done by let's see, what's his name? Tunenberg, Tunberg, Tunberg. Yeah, these were both done by Tunberg, and he's an excellent Latin scholar. The thing with doing these is there's a meter and cadence and a rhyme that has to be preserved between that's in the English, and so that is why Catus Petasatus is the cat in the hat, and the idea being there is he's there. He has preserved the that cadence. There's lots of words for hat that he could have chose. So yeah, no, it's very, very good. This was, I forget who did this. Mark Walker. Yeah, that was a very good. Both of these are very good. I have not actually seen this one. Now, Bolchese Carducci is a very excellent publisher, so I'm sure they did a good job of that. So anyway, let's wrap up quickly here. Read Unit 1, fresh pronunciation, practice the Ave Maria, go through Unit 1 100 times. Work on the first declension nouns. If you're a bit swamped in the endings, work on the vocabulary for the moment. We will be coming back to endings over and over again, and we will build up our vocabulary with other parts of speech that will help that. So the thing though is you got to practice it. Okay, you can't slip the notes under the pillow and absorb it overnight. I've tried, it doesn't work. Not for Latin, but for other things. And if you do make it to Latin liturgies, which is great, look at, try and pick up a hand missile and attempt to look at some of the words. Pick out some of the things that you might recognize. Or even if it's a common thing like the Sanctus or the Agnus Dei, those are fairly simple Latin. So you can kind of see the mappings between the Latin and the English. Don't bother with the Kyrie because that's Greek. It's one of the few places the Western liturgy retained the early Greek So you can learn the Greek, but all right, let's finish up. I wanted to add one more thing, that tonight is, or I should say tomorrow, is a total lunar eclipse. And if you want to stay up till midnight, that's when the eclipse starts, and that's when the shadow starts to creep over the moon. So you won't see much at midnight. It'll be nearly total at about 3 a.m. It's actually not a total lunar eclipse. It's 97%, but that's darn close to total. And then the moon will be totally out of the shadow by about 6 a.m. I have to work tomorrow, so if I got to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I'll look out the window and then I can claim I saw this is one of the longest eclipses, lunar eclipses in the last, 500, 600 years. I've forgotten. So catch it now while you can.
So that's what was up with this 500, 600 years thing, because like lunar eclipses happen all the time. So
They typically happen twice a year somewhere. But no, this is the length of the eclipse, and it has to do with the orbit around the sun is not a perfect circle. It's close. And the orbit of the moon around the earth is not a perfect circle. It is close. But also the orbit planes are tilted. In other words, the plane in which the earth orbits the sun, think of that as a flat area. Well, the moon is orbit around the earth is tilted with respect to that. So you got to get all the things line up right in order to get a really long eclipse. And so, yeah, if it's kind of like Halley's Comet, if you don't catch it this time, then, well, you're probably not going to catch it the second time. So I think that is everything. Yes, let's do our final prayer, and then I'll stay on for a few minutes for rant. Oh, and Alex was going to entertain us with the biography of Hermann Contractus, who's the author of the Salve Regina. So you might want to stay on for that. But let's do the concluding prayer and let those people go who need to go. All right. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. So if you want to head on out, before I forget, that's the other thing. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving. We will not meet on Thanksgiving. Now, I'm sure everybody is terribly disappointed at that, but my wife has required that I be somewhere else Thursday. So you can blame it all on her. Notice she isn't listening, by the way. So yeah, we will have class on the following Thursday. And as I said, I wanted people to try the lessons in Unit 1. If you want, we can go through those exercises next time, or we can go on to the next section. I think that's masculine nouns. It is up to you guys. Any preferences? P1 lessons.
Lessons, yeah.
Well, so far the lessons have it that, 1 vote to none. It's a landslide, right? Any other lessons? Oh, okay.
What was the other choice?
Or we go right to Unit 2.
Let's do lessons.
Let's do lessons. Okay. That's three to none. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll do that. I don't have a problem with that because I realize some of this is still pretty foreign, and yeah. Okay. Alex, you're on. Regale us with the life history of Hermann Contractus, who, by the way, is very amazing guy. He in today's society, he probably would have been aborted. He was born. Oh, by the way, Contractus is generally translated. Hermann Contractus is generally translated as Hermann the Cripple. He had a number of deformities, and so. But he actually joined a religious order. I forgot. I guess it was the Benedictines. I've forgotten now. And wrote some of the most beautiful Latin hymn poetry that we still have today, the Salve Regina in particular. But also he was a theologian, philosopher, and I think he even did a little science on the side. But anyway, Alex.
Very much so. If you can imagine, as a child, he's born around the year 1000, 1013. As a child, he was born to noble parents, but if you can imagine this, he had spina bifida, he had cerebral palsy, he had a cleft palate, he could hardly speak, and he had great difficulty moving. And so his parents, when he was age 7, said, we don't know what to do with him. So they handed him over at age 7 to a Benedictine monastery. And
question, was this noble family part of the Habsburgs?
No.
No.
We're talking about the year 1000. So
yeah.
Long before
he
that.
would have been
his real name, he goes by that, as you were referring to him, is Blessed Hermann of Reichenau.
Yeah, he's Reichenau, German.
He way back in 1843, I don't know why he's not been declared a saint. I guess they just haven't come up with the miracles, but he has.
Actually, I have a suggestion why. He's too humble.
Maybe. But what you said about him being aborted, he really is the poster child for throwing it back at the people in the far left, because if someone today who was of that persuasion knew from spinal fluid or from amniotic fluid, let's say, that he was likely to have spina bifida, cerebral palsy, would likely never be able to walk very well, and very likely never be able to speak very well, then he would be at great risk to be aborted. But it turns out he is one of the great minds in the history of mankind, and he's just not been talked about. He wrote treatises on mathematics that are still in use today. Some credit him with the invention of the astrolabe. So he was an astronomer. How he could be an astronomer is hard to believe. He was a great Latin scholar. That's the reason why I brought this up. He wrote extensively, and he wrote about the history of music. He wrote treatises on geometry. He solved a great number of mathematical problems. And if you can imagine this, in his later life, he goes blind. He goes blind in his later life, and that is when he authors the Salve Regina and the Alma Redemptoris. Now, there is some dispute about whether he authored the Veni Sancti Spiritus, but there seems to be no dispute about him authoring Salve Regina, the same thing that we sing in Mass every day. Now, when we see it in the Missal, they don't often give him credit for it. They give the credit to the person who wrote the music, but he's the one who authors the words. So he had a great ability to speak. But if you can imagine someone doesn't do this until, yes, there's a book, an English author has written a book about him, which I haven't seen. But if you can imagine someone with those difficulties being able to do what he did, it's absolutely astounding. And of course, he had a great faith, And poor thing, he died at age 41. So in 41 years, that kind of a life, he managed to produce all that. He's an absolutely incredible man, and he doesn't get the attention that he deserves as a great scientist, great mathematician, great historian. He wrote a great deal about history. And then eventually, as you said, beautiful poetry, and then these beautiful prayers that are with us today, the Alma Redemptoris Mater, the Salve Regina, and others. There are many composers who were inspired by him even today, but you just don't hear about that. And many who, like Palestrina and others who are great classical composers, they relied on him. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of our class, that this is someone who was a great Latin scholar, someone we could all kind of shake our heads to and say, well, gosh, if he could do it, if he could learn Latin with all of those difficulties and without any parents. Here he is, he's abandoned, and I shouldn't say abandoned, but he is essentially turned into, someone who has got substitute parents, with being a 7-year-old child in a Benedictine monastery. He did eventually join the Benedictines at age 20. I think he became a priest, but golly, what a tough childhood, and how he managed to turn his life around and do what he did is just so remarkable. And as I understand it, he had great faith. I suppose it really wouldn't be possible for him to do something like that without great faith.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I suspect it was his difficulties, his suffering, if you wish, that enabled him to write such beautiful pieces.
One work that I read said that the classic terms of spina bifida and cerebral palsy, they say actually, based on the descriptions of the types of problems that he had, that the diseases that he had are actually even worse than what he's been credited with. So it was a tough life, and it's a good example of every human life. Every human life has the potential for, or is unique and has the potential for doing great gifts. And you never know what those gifts are going to be, even for someone who has the adversity that Blessed Hermann had.
By the way, I looked it up. He had been beatified in 1863.
No, I'm saying he had. I was just questioning why he hasn't been made a saint.
Oh, canonized.
Yes, he is canonized. He is Blessed Hermann.
Yeah.
So yes, he's been beatified. It's just that it's caused. Maybe we all ought to think about him to help any lost causes that we think we have, to be credited to his sanctification, his canonization.
Yeah,
my second cousin has spina bifida.
Yeah, and I would add one other thing. We know, most people probably know him through the Salve Regina, but he was actually what was very common through that part of the Middle Ages. He was a cleric scientist. One of the things the Benedictines did is a lot of astronomical observations. And the reason for that is you needed to be able to set the date of Easter. And the date of Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. And so they measured the positions of the sun and the stars. And he was an astronomer. I mean, there were he wrote treatises on mathematics and astronomy. So he is not just a composer of music, but he is what we would call a scientist cleric, much like many of the Benedictines were of that time.